Hey, what's up? What's up? We're back. We're back after the Buzzer Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones. Man, I got my guy back with me, Marv. What's up, Marv?
What's going on, Lee? How you doing today, man?
I'm doing I'm doing good, man. We got a hot show for everybody today, man. We got a special guest, Miss Natalie Ramirez. We gonna bring her in just a few minutes. She's from UCLA, track and field star. She's gonna talk about some NIL issues. She's in the field of NIL. She's gonna break it down for us. I'm looking forward to that conversation. We're gonna talk about Bronny James being drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers. Man, we need to see what all of you are thinking about. Great pick. Is it nepotism? Talk to us. We're going to jump into that, and I want to get everybody's thoughts about that. Hey, we're going to talk about J.J. Redick. We're going to stay right there. J.J. Redick being hired as the coach of the Lakers. Was that a good thing? How you feel he's going to do? We're going to jump into that. I also want to talk about Big Zach Edey being drafted by the Memphis Grizzlies, Marv's favorite team, the Memphis Grizzlies. I want to make sure that we get into that. Was it a good pick? Two-time player of the year. Will he help the Grizzlies? And then, I was being facetious, but Marv's favorite team, the New York Knicks, picked up Mikal Bridges. I want to see, has the Knicks closed the gap on the Boston Celtics, or is Boston still the clear-cut favorite in the East? So we got a hot show as always, guys. We want you to like and subscribe to the show. Tell a friend about us. Definitely comment. We want to hear your comments today. Marv, I'm gonna turn it over to you right now, man, so you can introduce our special guest, and we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, we are pleased to introduce Miss Natalie Ramirez. She's a member of the UCLA track and field team. And I think we all know, Lee and I have talked about the NIL and the debate about how it would affect Olympic sports, in particular women. And I thought that it would be great for us to get someone who is currently involved in the new landscape of college athletics. She's a high level college athlete. She's also a graduate student at UCLA. So she's definitely achieved a lot of things and is able to speak on some stuff that, Lee and I pontificate about this a lot and we debate about this, but we just two old guys on here talking. So we thought that getting somebody who was currently involved in this would be great and to have a conversation with us, not only to welcome her and to congratulate her for her phenomenal career and what she's achieved, but also to educate us because again, we just two old dudes that sit on here and talk. So let's get the young lady to come in here and school us a little bit. So, Ms. Ramirez, thank you for taking some time to join us. I really appreciate it. I know you're out there on the West Coast. It's still probably sun shining and probably 80 degrees, but we wanted to thank you for coming on and taking some time with us. Okay.
No, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
All
I
right.
love being
Great.
on
Great.
here. This is my first podcast,
Good.
so this is cool.
Oh, okay. All right. Great. Great. Well, I'm
Hey,
glad that we could break you in a little bit today.
and
Yeah.
relax, and just do your thing because we know you got some great knowledge that you're going to bring to us and the audience. So, hey, just relax. And like Marv said, he's just an old guy, and I'm just a young guy listening in. So we're gonna make it happen.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to
so
be
so
here.
so So, Ms. Ramirez, we've always talked about the NIL. Me being a former college athlete, like I told you before when I talked to you, probably before you were even born when I was playing. But the landscape of college athletics has changed, right? Especially with
Yeah.
the sport that you play, an Olympic sport and track and field. Just talk to us initially, with the NIL and now with the decision for college athletes being able to, be paid. What does that mean for sports like track and field? What does that mean for young women who are in Olympic level sports? How does that affect you? Just give us some insight on the landscape and how it's affected you moving forward and what you think. Do you think it's a good thing for college athletics? And I know some things you might not be able to speak on, but as much as you can speak on, educate us a little bit on how you feel about
Yeah. So when I came in to college, NIL didn't exist. I came in 2019. NIL started in 2021, and just kind of watching how it's changed a bit. I haven't, capitalized too hard on NIL throughout my
it. Hmm.
collegiate career. I felt a little bit on the older side in how it's developed, even the last year or so.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I would say that for Olympic sports, a lot of brands want to pick up football, basketball, because those are the
yeah.
revenue generating sports. But I have seen a lot of my peers and fellow athletes take part in NIL and get really great deals as well, just for being awesome and great
Yeah,
athletes.
yeah, absolutely. Has it changed relationships between teammates, right? Like, you see people who get really, really, maybe some lucrative NIL deals or any kind of deal. It doesn't even have to be lucrative. I know in college, we were all broke, so we didn't really have any money. So anybody that's getting money, have you seen it change relationships? Does it change the locker room at all? Do people kind of go about team sports a little bit differently? Have you seen that change that landscape at all?
I wouldn't see NIL as a negative landscape change in terms of relationships within the locker room. I think, if anything, it's almost a way of building relationships. We have
Okay.
the opportunity to share on social media, branding collectively. So I think if anything, it's bringing us a little bit closer together. Track and field is pretty individual as a sport, so
Yeah, yeah.
people help each other with their Instagram posts or their TikToks or whatever and filming. So I think it's honestly been great for relationships. I haven't seen too much of a difference in terms of size of the brand deal or how you get connected. I think everybody has a pretty similar opportunity. At least at my school, you know, there are resources for Olympic sports and there's resources for football and basketball, and everybody just kind of gets a slice of the pie for sure.
Okay, good. You and Lee, before you go, I'm gonna say one more thing. I think about this in the context of an old dude, right? Like the internet, those things, social media, those things weren't really prevalent when I played. And it's interesting that you said that, Miss Ramirez. That's just part of your daily now, like the branding and the social media. And I think some of us lose concept on the fact that this is just an everyday for you, right? And the ability to brand yourself and to put yourself out there. So I'm glad that you said that because sometimes we forget that we didn't grow up with it. So I see it a lot differently than what you do. It's a means for you to put yourself out there. You guys see it as something that's a really, really good thing, but two old heads, we see it a little bit differently sometimes. Go ahead, Lee. Sorry.
Yeah, with and talking NIL, the whole idea of collectives, these collectives that we hear about all the time. How are they, and what has been your experiences, and even maybe some experiences from other athletes? How are those collectives interacting with the athletes and trying to get them these NIL type deals? Oh, can you share with us uh, uh, what that daily reality is, and how the collectives work with the athletes to get them these interesting opportunities?
So I know the collectives have been a big part of the role that NIL has played over the last 3 or so years. Recently, some things have changed where athletes can actually make their own deal, so they don't need a collective in order to create their
Oh
own
wow.
deal. And then on top of that, as far as I'm aware, there are individuals within the department who can now help create deals or um, help create those resources for the athletes, so they don't have to go directly through a collective. Um, but that was a big part of it. The first year or so, I remember there were two main collectives in Westwood that were working, but they've seemed to kind of dwindle a little bit. I'm not sure what the future of that holds at the moment, but I know they still exist. I just
Yeah,
personally never went through them.
absolutely.
Gotcha,
Absolutely.
gotcha.
The other thing I'd like to ask, and I think Miss Keaton, excuse me, wanted to know if NIL has helped or hurt sports. But I don't want you to answer that, but I want to add on to that. Recently, I learned that a 9-year old out in California that plays in Snoop's football league signed an
Hmm.
NIL deal. Right, he plays in Snoop football league. He signed an NIL deal with a family for life sports agency, and I was wondering, you didn't come in when NIL was first introduced, but how do you think it's affecting the high school athlete now? I'm sure you still have younger friends and people that you mentor, how they view coming from high school to college or even getting a deal while they're in high school.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of high school athletes now capitalizing on um, the NIL, um, the new way of how it's going now. I think anybody can make a brand deal, honestly, at this point. I think COVID was a really prime opportunity for TikTok, Instagram Reels, those kinds of platforms to capitalize on marketing. And so anybody can really have a brand deal at this point. And now it's just athletes can too, and we can use our name, image, and likeness. I think for high schoolers and college athletes, I don't think it's necessarily hurt the athletes, certainly not.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
think that the high schoolers are able to benefit on TikTok, Instagram. It's if you're willing to put in the work to create that platform, you can absolutely make money from the time you're a freshman. Depending on honestly, it doesn't even matter how what kind of prospect you are. If you're an athlete, like people want you promoting them. So I think it's been very
yeah.
helpful for athletes to get their names out there, and in terms of maybe even recruiting or yeah, just marketing in general.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I know that you just graduated. Dr. Orange is saying that you just graduated. I want to get to that in a second, but I wanted to ask you one more, UCLA, Pac-12, Big Ten type of question before we move on. Have you talked to any of your, teammates or people? I know you have relationships probably across the board: basketball, football, volleyball, whatever the case may be. What's the feeling been about the move from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten for UCLA in terms of, do you think it's sustainable? Do you think it's a great? We all know it's about revenue, but from a student athlete perspective, how do you feel about the change going to the Big Ten and being bi-coastal in terms of the league? Do you think that that's a big deal, or are we making too much of a big deal about
Um, I can't speak for sports where travel is largely a component of a game, one team versus one team, because I'm a track
it?
and
Right,
field athlete. So
right.
go to go to the track meets that are most competitive and have the best teams available. So for us, in terms of the track, well, I just graduated, so I'm former track and field athlete. Won't affect me too much, but I think it won't impact them very much. We travel, maybe for Big Tens. I will say, there's been a great deal of effort, I feel, from probably all of the schools moving conferences. There have been, what, 6 schools from the Pac moving by
Yeah,
coastal.
yeah,
Um, I'm sure, in terms of travel, in terms of nutrition, I know, there have been great efforts to try and ease those transitions and try and make sure
yeah,
that school is covered and made possible to the greatest degree, and that we're recovering the way that we need to, and all of that. I think it's going to be a challenge, obviously,
yeah.
especially at the high academic, high athletic schools. It is a struggle, I'm sure, but I know that the resources will be available, and I think it's very optimistic to be moving into a conference like the Big Ten. Um, yeah, I think it's exciting.
Okay, great, great. So let me ask you this: being a former athlete myself, and I remember when my college career ended, and I know you just graduated, so congratulations. And it's a big
Pleasure.
deal to play high level college sports and to also graduate and to do the things that you're doing. So first of all, what are your plans? What are you going to do now, and how do you feel about your track and field, kind of UCLA career being over, and what do you take from it, and how do you think it's prepared you moving forward in life? What are you taking from your experience as a high level college athlete?
There's so much I could say. I've loved my experience at UCLA. It's been This last year has been a lot. Surely, I was able to be a part of. I just got my master's of education, and so I was part of this
Great.
program called Formative Coaching and Leadership that we have at UCLA, and it's an incredible program. Not to plug it, but I will say it is
That's what
incredible.
you're
And
supposed to do. Plug it, plug away.
yeah, shout out to all of my peers and classmates. It was definitely the best year of education I've had. I've enjoyed it so much, and wouldn't have traded it for anything. But in terms of track, I've been doing track since I was about 4 or 5 years old. So this is the first
Wow.
year that I'm kind of transitioning out of the athletic role. Um, and it's exciting. I've had many years under my belt, and I'm tired a little bit. I love it to death, but it's time for the next people to move up and become what they need to be. Um, I've learned a lot about like leadership and the inner workings of the athletic department and um, just how track works and coaching and all of this. My goal, I have aspirations of coaching, but also I would love to work in like athletic administration or something within those that realm at some point. So
All right,
yeah.
great, great. So tell anybody listening, Lee, before you go. I know I'm bombarding you here, but tell
No, you're
anybody
good. You're good.
listening what does it take to reach the level that you reached in terms of participating in high level college sports at UCLA. Like, I think sometimes people don't understand just the commitment and the dedication that it takes and the things that you miss out on to get to where you got. So just give people an idea who might be listening exactly what it took for you to get there, what it took for you to succeed. And
Yeah.
ultimately, yeah, go ahead, speak on that.
Um, I would say one of the biggest things that it took for me was to be patient and to trust myself. Um, Patience it took 5 years for me to get through to this confidence and this place that I'm at now, where I feel secure in my career and feel like I can move forward. And it's hard, but it's another season of life now that I'm going to have to be patient through. And I feel um, lucky to have had those skills. Obviously, a lot of hard work. Um,
Yeah.
but if you trust yourself and you set your mind to it and you believe you can do it. I did not plan on going to UCLA when I, was getting recruited. I was, and it was an opportunity that came up, and I kind of doubted myself a little bit, and then here I am now 5 years later with a bachelor's and a master's, and yeah, I'm very proud to be here now. But it took a lot of patience, a lot of hard work, and just keeping those close to me, as close as possible,
Yeah.
to support and to support me. So yeah, very blessed to have the circle that I have as well.
Great. Awesome. Awesome. Go ahead, Lee. I know you wanted to chime in. I was cutting you off a little
No,
bit.
no. Excellent. Before we get out of here, I want to ask you, with all of the talk about NIL and athletes and banding around with the new settlement with the NCAA and potentially athletes being employees of the colleges, talk to us about what are your thoughts about that and how difficult that's going maybe or how easy that may be. What is your thoughts about athletes becoming employees of the university?
Yeah, that is the golden question right there. I have been watching this whole thing kind of unfold, um, and I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I think it could be very positive for the athletes, but I think it'll change the model of the NCAA maybe, or um, I think there's a lot of things to consider as an athlete, like being an employee. Um, what does that mean for our scholarships? What does that mean for getting
Right.
fired?
Right.
What does that mean for getting taxed, or like what is school going to be covered, or like I'm not sure. Those are all things that I'm sure will be figured out. It's just all kind of up in the air right now. Um, and I think, you know, it all comes down to like how football and basketball move forward, because at the end of the day, the Olympic sports and it being an Olympic year, they're important, and we have to
Yeah.
like be able to train. We have to be able to have international student athletes come and train here for the other 3 years outside of the Olympics. Like there is a need for the US to continue to have a strong Olympic sports system. But since most of the time those Olympic sports aren't revenue generating, I do worry a little bit about how those sports will continue to function under a more pro model landscape, or whatever the NCAA moves towards in the future. But yeah, there's a lot up in the air there. I'm curious to find out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll be honest too. I'm a little worried about it as well. because even us on our podcasts and around the sports spectrum, the only thing that we talk about are the revenue generating sports, football, basketball, and we don't think about all the other sports that are part of this landscape. And I think athletic departments will have to make some really, really crucial decisions on sports that they determine or deem to be, of value when it comes to participation. And even when we saw some of these venture capitalist firms that are talking about trying to infuse money in the athletic departments, it's going to be a really, really interesting conversation. So I agree with you, Ms. Ramirez. It'll be really interesting to see how this kind of works. I do want to get one more question in here. Dr. O was asking about, being a Latina in sports. Did you find it isolating at times? Talk to us about, if you found that to be difficult. I think it was a really good question. I don't want you to leave without touching on that as well.
Yeah. So I did have times where I felt a bit isolated in track and field. It's, at least there are should I say, in LA, there's a very dense population of Latinos,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I at times I would feel a bit isolated. But I actually founded and kind of created a group called the Student Athlete Latino Spanish
Yeah.
Association campus this
Okay.
year, that I think should be brought up in the NCAA. Hopefully, maybe in the future we can work on that. But it's just to create some sort of community for the Latino population within athletics. And because there's such a population on the UCLA campus as well,
Yeah.
I really wanted to capitalize on that and see if we could make those connections. And we did. I had 2 quarters to kind of build it. And I'm hoping that it continues to gain momentum over time. But it is hard, I think, for anyone with people that may not identify the same as you, when you're surrounded, others. But again, I found my way, and I have supportive and amazing teammates that help me through it. And yeah, it's something that I think should be addressed further, for any ethnic or minority group, or in the future. I think there's a lot of great resources for a lot of different groups, and I think we can just keep moving forward with that for sure.
Well, I just wanted to say, being a former athlete myself and talking to you, it seems like you've certainly adjusted to the transition. A lot of us never did, and it's really good to see and to speak to someone who's clearly, come to terms and has utilized your skill set in terms of being a track and field athlete to further your education and do the things that you needed to do to better yourself moving forward. So it's a pleasure to speak to you because a lot of
Love
us
it.
don't take those opportunities because we think we know it all, or we think we're the best, or we think that whatever the case may be, a lot of us don't utilize the opportunities that are in front of us. So I wanted to congratulate you for that because you seem
Thank
very well grounded and like you have a bright future ahead of us. And I want you to be a guest on the show so we can see where you are and kind of what you're doing. I know you're probably going to work for the Big Ten or UCLA. You're doing some different stuff, so we'll wait for you to kind of settle into some of your roles. But I certainly want you to be a fan of the show, and we really would appreciate the time that you took just to come speak with us. We want to certainly kind of keep up with you too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And we know you're going to be a big success. And when you're running someone's athletic department, promise you're going to come back on after the buzzers. Okay.
Promise. Will do. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ms.
Appreciate you.
Ramirez.
Thank you,
All
Ms.
right.
Ramirez. Appreciate you joining the show.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Excellent. Beautiful young lady. Excellent young lady. Together, young lady. I love it.
Absolutely,
Excellent guest.
absolutely.
Excellent guest.
And Lee, real quick before we segue, that's the beauty of college athletics, though, as well, right? That's what you want. A lot of us go into it thinking that we're going to go in and make money and become this and become that, but you could see, the eloquence and the thoughtfulness and the fact that she used that platform to better herself educate. You could see it kind of come from her. So that's what college athletics does for people. Just kind of wanted to point that out a little bit. That is what it's all about right there.
No, Marv, you're 100%. The unfortunate thing about it is finances and revenue has taken over all aspects of sport. And to have a young lady like that started, worked her way in college, developing this Latino group and all the things that she's doing, it just becomes overshadowed, and that's
Yeah.
unfortunate with the big time nature of college sports. So it's a very nice interview, and I'm very thankful she came on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Couple of items that happened in the world of sports today. Caitlin Clark missed a triple double today by 1 rebound. 15 points, 9 rebounds, 12 assists. The Fever defeated the Phoenix Mercury. Our girl Angel Reese, another double-double. First player ever to have 10 consecutive double-doubles. Go ahead. The Chicago Barbie, as they call her. Excellent still on that road. Chris Paul, released, waived by the Golden State Warriors. And NBA free agency opened up today. So those are some of the hot topics for today's sports. But let's go back in the week in reverse now, because one of the big things that happened during the week, and I wanted to get your opinion, Marvin, the audience's opinion, was the Prince, as we call him, the Prince, Bronny James, was drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers. Marv, I want to get your thoughts on it. Is it nepotism? Is it business as usual? I definitely want to get the audience's comments on it. What are your thoughts about Bronny James being drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers, and where do we go from here? Go ahead, Marv. The floor is yours.
Well, I mean, I don't think any of us are surprised by it. This isn't like breaking news. When you turn it down NBA workouts, when you average 4 points in college, and your agent is saying that you won't sign a two-way deal, I mean, the writing was on the wall that LA was going to draft him. Now listen, we do know nepotism runs rampant on all levels of professional sports, just not from a playing aspect, front office aspect, coaching. We can go down the list. So if he's in a position to be able to benefit from who his father is, who am I to say that he's wrong for that? He's not. I think all of us who played the sport would have loved to have a dad that could have got us drafted, even if we didn't deserve it, because we all know that if he wasn't an NBA talent, just from what he did on a collegiate standpoint and what he achieved. But now we'll find out. Nepotism, great. He's in the NBA, great. He's drafted, great. Now we're gonna find out if he can really play. And I know you and I had a conversation about, the summer league and just how much guys are gonna go at him. So now we're gonna really find out about who Bronny James is. But I'm not mad at him for getting drafted by the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers are who they are. The front office is terrible. I mean, everybody saw this coming. It's the AARP Lakers. I don't know what they're gonna do in free agency. Even if they add Clay, they add Clay Thompson. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but we'll probably get into that later. But I'm okay with it. I just hope, and I like the kid. I have nothing against the kid. I just hope it's not too much for him to be able to bite off, because his talent may not warrant where he is. Right. That's the only question that I have, because if it doesn't, if he stinks up summer league, man, get ready.
Well, a couple of things. You always say a mouthful, Marvin. I love you, but you always said. I'm gonna go back to two things. I'm gonna. Ray Blackwell says Angel Reese is the Rookie of the Year. I do agree with that. He also said the King has shown his power. The Prince has arrived. And Jesus Jones says it's both, and there's nothing wrong with it. People are selective when they start pointing fingers. Miss Keaton, no, it's not. He did what a father should do. I like those comments. Marv, you keep saying to me, and you talk about Bronny's talent, and a lot of people talk about it. But A.J. Johnson was the 23rd pick in the NBA draft for the Milwaukee Bucks, right? He averaged 2.9 points a game. He averaged 1.3 rebounds a game in 26 games and 0.7 assists. Is he worthy of the 23rd pick?
Where is he from? Because listen, hold on. Before you go down this route, like, what's his metrics? Tell me what his metrics are, because everybody loved to bring up Bronny's metrics when he was kind of coming through. So what's the kid's metrics? Tell me who he is.
He's 6'7", 6'8". He was a 4-star recruit out of Texas. He didn't go to college. He went to Australia and played in the NBL. Right? But still, he averaged 2.9 points a game, 1.3 rebounds a game, and 0.7 assists. Are those, because I hear people all the time quoting stats. That's not worthy of the 23rd pick in the NBA draft if we're just going off of stats.
Fine.
So
Hey,
let's
Lee.
we have to throw that out there because stats is not
Okay.
the NBA more than any sport, Marv, drafts on potential. Is that not correct? They draft on potential. And Bronny James has
No,
just as
that's
much
not correct,
potential
Lee.
as all of these guys. As all of these guys.
That's not
And
correct.
so
That's not correct.
I think, okay,
That's not
why
correct.
isn't it not correct? Why isn't it
The
correct?
NBA drafts on potential when you're 7 foot, when you're 6'8", 250. That's when you draft on potential, on what could be.
No.
You don't draft on potential at 6'1". You never
Well,
have an NBA team
Marv,
drafted on
talent is
potential
talent.
from somebody. You don't know if Bronny has talent. So you can't
Well, you
say
don't.
he's talented because the only thing that we see him doing is shooting open jump shots and three clips from his workout where he made some threes and made a couple of good. That's all we've seen. So we don't know how talented Bronny is. His college
We don't know.
career wasn't good.
He averaged
So
more
if you want
points
to
than the
use the AJ, if you want to
he
use the
averaged
AJ
more
kid,
points than the
fine.
23rd pick in the draft. He
Okay,
averaged more points,
okay.
more rebounds,
If
and more assists. So
I'm
obviously he
fine.
has some talent.
If you want to nitpick and have one instance of a guy that probably shouldn't have been drafted, fine. I'm cool with that. Okay,
I'm
AJ Johnson shouldn't be drafted, and he goes into the same category as Bronny James.
What I'm saying is that talent, it comes in all types of levels. Bronny can play on the ball defense, and he can shoot
How
the
do you
three.
know, Lee?
There's a
This is what
place
I'm
in the
saying.
league.
No,
That's what the Lakers expect.
there is no
That's
empirical
what the
evidence that
Lakers
tells you
expect.
this.
That's what the
Fine.
Lakers expect.
And
The
nobody
Lakers
else
drafted
did.
it. That's what they're
And
looking for.
nobody
But
else did.
we don't know that because Rich Paul told no other team to draft him because he would go to Australia and play.
Hey,
So
Lee,
the
you
Lakers
know
pulled
damn
out.
well, Lee, you know damn well that if another NBA team found value in Bronny James at a higher pick, he would have been drafted. And they would have said, "Damn, Rich Paul." Clutch Sports don't run the NBA; the owners do.
Well,
Okay, so let's
evidently,
stop that narrative real quick. Like Rich Paul was
Rich
pulling some
Paul
damn
runs the
strings.
NBA because
Okay,
he called the teams and they didn't draft him. But let's get
says who?
says it was reported on ESPN. It was reported by a lot of people that have knowledge of the draft situation. But so I just want to debunk the narrative that the guy doesn't have talent. Too many people say that
Nobody
when there
said
are
he
other
didn't have
people
talent,
with
Lee.
comparative numbers because you look at his numbers. Numbers don't set the stage for
Numbers,
what
no, no,
NBA
no,
players.
number. Like they said, women lie, men lie, numbers don't lie. Numbers always tell the story, man. Like at the end of the day, I'm not saying LeBron is not a talented kid and that he can't be productive in some kind of way, but to act like what he did was conducive to being drafted into the NBA without the last name James, it's just kind of ludicrous, right?
Well,
So I don't get the argument. I hope he's successful. I ain't got nothing against the kid. I'm talking from a pure basketball standpoint here, and there's a reason why that they muddled the draft and they put all this context out there about Bronny because they knew the Lakers were going to draft him. Like everybody knew this wasn't news. Like we knew where this was going. The reason
there's
why he
no,
stayed in the draft, the reason why he did no workouts for anybody else was because it was already written. Everybody knew what was getting ready to happen.
but there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And again,
I didn't say there
that
was.
all of that can be true. All of that, and I don't necessarily disagree with you on that. All of that can be true, but the guy still, as far as how the NBA drafts, he's right there, and he was the 55th pick. And for anybody that says does not, he's not worthy of being drafted at the 55th pick, that's just not true. That's just not true. He
Well,
was drafted. Great point.
here,
As far as him being drafted, he was drafted for his potential on what the Lakers saw. So, but we give you examples all the time of players that have numbers that do not represent being draft eligible or being able to be drafted that are drafted into the league. And what do, Marv? They hide them away in the G League. They hide them away overseas until they're ready to do what is done every day. I'm going to catch up a couple of them and get back with you. Nancy McChristen, Bronny James' dad should help him. Others do it all the time. It's about time we were able to help our children. Let's see, Norma, Miss Keenan. He will be fine. The move LeBron James made as a black father was major. I agree with all those things. Do you consider it a nepotism, Marv? Do you think people, as they try to pile on to LeBron for making this move happen, what do you think about it? Nepotism or business as usual for the NBA?
I mean, it's both. Yeah, I mean, like you said, two things can be true, and this is one instance, right? I'm gonna use your famous phrase, right? Two things can be true. It's both. And again, let me be very clear. I don't have anything against Bronny. We had a dad the caliber of LeBron James and the power that he has, will be fortunate to be in that situation. That's not what this argument is about. Yes, LeBron James did what he's supposed to do for his son. If he's got that type of power and he's got that kind of pull and he's earned it. Now, let's not act like LeBron hasn't earned this type of power, because he has. He's been the face of the NBA for a long time, and he's done everything the right way. So I'm not doubting that. I'm talking about from a pure basketball standpoint. I don't have a problem with Bronny getting drafted, but if we're talking pure basketball, that's one thing. If we're talking about the fact that his father was able to weave an NBA superstar and a megastar that he's been for 20 years, that's another argument, and I'm fine with that. But I'm not fine on the basketball aspect, because I know from a basketball standpoint, he's not ready yet. But he's also the 55th pick. So most picks that get picked that low, they never see an NBA contract. So that's going to be the next thing that we'll find that's going to be interesting. Does he get a guaranteed deal at the 55th pick? That'll be the conversation I want to have, because I think he will.
Well, I think he's going to get a guaranteed deal. I don't think it's going to be a two-way deal. I think he's going to get a guaranteed deal. I do think he's going to spend some time in the G League to start off the season, and then he's going to come up to the Lakers, and that's going to be one of the most hyped G League to NBA transactions that's ever happened. But so I'm fine with all that. But I just say, for the 55th pick in the draft, there's no way you can say that he's not ready when all of those second rounders, none of them are ready. I want to fast forward a little bit. JJ Redick, hired as the Lakers coach this week, had coming in with no NBA coaching experience, no college coaching experience. I think he coached his son AAU team. And wanted to get your thoughts about that, Marv, as far as coming in, head coach of the Lakers now, and what do you see JJ Redick's future? Will it be successful? Will it flame out? There's been 8 coaches since 2000 to take over an NBA team with no coaching experience, and only one of them have been successful. That's Steve Kerr. The rest of them barely had winning records, and none of them won over one playoff series. So what are your thoughts about JJ Redick coming in and taking over the Lakers?
It's about roster building, right? JJ Redick got a job because he all he's done. I mean, he was a player for 15 years. I don't want to poo-poo on the fact that he was a great college player, because he was, and he was a very valued member of every NBA franchise he was part of. But we all know coaching is a different animal. And coaching, it's not about, all we hear about is how smart he is, and how, I mean, you and I can get on here and dissect some plays and sound smart. Some of the stuff we say sounds smart some of the time. Does that mean, hell, give me an NBA job and pay me, $5 million for whatever. I can sound smart sometimes too, but that doesn't make me an NBA coach. And we all know this is about the roster, and he's got a roster that needs a lot of work. And if his roster isn't good, hell, you and I can get out there and throw the ball to LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and he came out with all the analytics and about how he's going to feature Anthony Davis in the offense and all this kind of stuff. You think Darvin Ham didn't do that? The problem with Anthony Davis is he's had 1 year where he's really been available, the bubble and this past year. So make no mistake about it, this is going to run through LeBron. LeBron is the player coach. I know you always debated whether LeBron should be the player coach. Well, he is. He's pulled the strings on everything that's happened, and he's going to pull the strings on this coming up season. And if they can't improve that roster, what LA will be is another 7th, 8th seed playing in the play-in game, because the NBA has shifted. It's a young man's game, and the Lakers old as hell. And that ain't changing no time soon, even if you bring in Klay Thompson, even if you find a way to bring in Paul George, which you can't. But even if you bring in one of them, he's still old as hell. and the West is young, and LA is playing for a 7th to 8th seed. I don't care how smart JJ Redick is.
Marv, is the Lakers roster, and I want to ask you two questions. One, is the Lakers roster good enough? Now, they won
No.
one playoff game last year, and they matched up against Denver. A lot of people think, I'm one included, that if they had a different matchup, they'd have went further last year with the current roster that they have. Is the Lakers roster good enough, right? With the addition of a Klay Thompson and I don't think that by any stretch they're a favorite to win the title, but I do think if they played Minnesota, if they played OKC, that they could have beat them in the first round in advance. So what are we talking about would be successful for JJ Redick in his first year as Lakers coach? It can't be championship or bust. I don't accept that. What is it, a second round exit or conference finals? What would you see or say a successful first year for the Lakers under JJ Redick would be?
I mean, hell, Darvin Ham went to a conference final. So it's a finals appearance at the least in terms of being successful. If you have the greatest player ever to walk on a court, in some opinions, we differ in that opinion, but some people feel that way. And you got Anthony Davis. That's the standard. All my LA people, Mav in LA, I know you out there. All my LA people, it's championship or nothing else. A first round exit isn't good enough. A second round exit isn't good enough. I don't care about matchups. This is Los Angeles, right? You got the best player in the world still, but your roster isn't good enough. I think D'Angelo Russell opted in. D'Angelo at the point is not good enough. He's shown you that he can't take you to where you need to be. Austin Reeves is a good, he's a good ancillary player. He's a good role player. He's somebody that'll get you numbers, but he's not taking you over the top. Tell me who on that roster can get you to where you need to be. LeBron is 40 damn years old. I don't care what anybody says. The NBA season is 82 damn games long.
So is it Western? Are you saying Western Conference Finals or bust? That's what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Because if you don't get there, what did you hire him for? You could have kept Darvin Ham if that's the case. Like, what did you bring him in there for?
I think players, from what was reported, players had issues with the Darvin Ham's in-game adjustments. I agree. I don't think Darvin Ham should have been the scapegoat. But if you think Redick is more analytically better than Darvin Ham as far as breaking down, making adjustments, then you make that move. Elliot Lyon says JJ Redick got the job because the King James wanted him to have it. His job is to do whatever King James says and to keep King James happy, period. Exclamation part. Hey, look, we all know he got that. It doesn't have to be, LeBron doesn't have to say anything, but if he's better analytically and he's better in development of players, isn't that a better thing for the Lakers who come in with some younger players that they have to get better? Do you think that is something that makes him a better coach?
Hey, you just said it at the beginning of your soliloquy, Lee. How do we know? We don't know if he is. He got a little podcast that he sounded smart on with LeBron, which by the way was foul as hell that LeBron did that, and now the guy ends up as your damn head coach. That was foul from the start. But how do we know he can develop players? The whole reason they wanted Danny Hurley is because there was proof that he could develop, right? There was proof that UConn went from the bottom to the top, and he had guys that he developed through this program, and he had a system that developed players. We don't know nothing about JJ Redick in terms of that. So how do we know? How do we know he's great analytically? I could sit up here and look at some analytics on a paper and watch some film and dissect, after the fact and make it sound like I'm smart. But in game is something completely different. In game is something completely different when you got LeBron James in your ear telling you need to run this, but analytics is telling him I need to do something different. You think he gonna overturn LeBron James in the huddle? Hell no. And then I just saw a comment about they're gonna get Klay and Chris Paul. Okay, and they old. The NBA is young now. Okay, you got Denver, you got Minnesota in the West, you got the Pelicans making some moves. They old as hell, and if the Lakers roster doesn't get better, they're gonna be doing the play-in again. And Chris Paul gonna pull a hamstring. LeBron gonna have a hurt foot. Klay Thompson gonna have a sore Achilles, and Anthony Davis gonna be in street clothes. That's exactly what you're gonna get.
Marvin, I think picking up Chris Paul because I think they need to alleviate the ball handling, and Chris Paul is one that can get the ball to Anthony Davis. I love that pickup for Paul to play with the Lakers. I think that the Lakers need additional shooting. I would love that pickup. I do think, and to Ray Blackwell's comments, I do think those two players. I don't think they're going to be able to get Clay because I don't think Clay will come for the mid-level exception. But those two
No.
players would help the Lakers immensely in getting them to advance in the playoffs. Look, it's a young players league, but the young players didn't do what they needed to do. Let's be honest. You talked about all these young players and Ant-Man and SGA, but they were all sitting at home when Kyrie and Luka bust that you know what. So we talking about young players like they're the godsend of this league. It didn't happen. So let's give the old guys a little more grace than what we have. Now, Miss McHouston Miss Nancy made up a great point. It was reported that that at Duke, JJ Redick called a black lady the N word while at Duke. Redick rebutted and said that he didn't say that. I'm assuming that's what he would say. Any thoughts on that, Marv, as we talk about it? Because it hadn't taken any type of flight. Well, it was reported, but no other sports agency has picked up on that or really said anything about it. No news outlet or no media. What do you think about that?
I mean, I got friends that are in the college coaching game that've been around a long time. This isn't new. I mean, this
Okay.
this has been heard way before this. But what is it that we're gonna do, right?
Yeah.
And nobody got actual footage of it. Nobody got actual video of it. Nobody got actual recording of it. It's just hearsay, and it didn't stop him from getting a job at one of the most powerful franchises in the NBA. So at this point, it is what it is. Do I believe it? Yeah, probably. I got some reliable people that been on the sidelines when he played at Duke that hinted that some stuff like that probably could have happened. So
Yeah.
I don't think that it's not true, but it is what it is at this point. He's the head coach of the Lakers, and Ray, I'm not hating on you Lakers, man. I'm just giving you facts, brother.
Look, let me say this about the report. We all know, that word can be uttered at an instance, Marv. The N word. It happens. People do it. And look, he got a job at ESPN, and it was never brought up.
Sure,
It's
sure, sure.
way too late. Well, it's not too late, but if we wanted to get that story out when he was first hired at ESPN and he was on ESPN, that should have came out then. That could have had more legs then, and maybe this wouldn't have occurred. It's just a tad bit late, in my estimation, to bring that out. Not to say that I would hire him or I agree with it, but you should have put that out sooner than later. But it's been great back and forth. I love it. Let's flip the script a little bit. I want to dive in. Edey now, Mark. People in Memphis have called you the ultimate hater of the Grizzlies. I don't call you that. I call you friend. But these are people in Memphis. I'm just calling it what they tell me as I walk around the streets. Zach Edey, number 9 pick, drafted by the Grizzlies. I personally think excellent pickup because I wanted the Grizzlies to get bigger so that Jaren Jackson can play more power forward. I love the fact that Edey has ball skills around the basket, shot 62% from the field over his career at Purdue, averaged 26 points, 13 rebounds this past year, had 37 points, 10 rebounds in the national championship game. I look at a pick and roll with Ja Morant and Zach Edey as the new Lob City. That's what I'm going to call him. Now, defensively, I know he's going to have some trouble adjusting to that pick and roll game. Had some trouble in college. But overall, I think an excellent pick for the Memphis Grizzlies. I look forward to see what he can do while he's there. But I want to get my basketball aficionado to chime in. Mark, what do you think about Zach Edey to
So,
the Memphis Grizzlies?
so all my people in Memphis, check it out. Now, remember, I'm the same dude that predicted basically the score within a point of the national championship game. I'm the same dude that predicted what the NBA finals will be, the series, right? Now I'm predicting something for you right now. Zach Edey will be rookie of the year in the NBA. And
Okay.
I'm saying that right now. And I love the pick for Memphis. All right. I know a lot of people hating on him at 9, but he was the best available. and he served a lot of purpose for Memphis. They got rid of Steven Adams. They needed a center, like you said, Lee. They needed to move Jaren Jackson more to the four, to his more natural spot, to allow him to be a roamer on defense. And the biggest thing, Lee, you already pointed this out, that pick and roll with Ja and the pressure that Ja puts on a defense coming off that pick and roll, and you cannot overstate the size of Edey. Have you ever tried to get around a screen of somebody that's 7'4"? Trust me, it's hard to do. Okay. And it's going to put a lot of pressure when Ja's getting downhill. You got to make a decision. You're going most of the time they're going to end up doubling. You're going to have Bane on one wing. You're going to have the Williams kid. You're going to have a lot of other shooters that are spaced out. You're going to have Edey rolling to the basket. You're going to have to pick your poison. So for me, I think it might be one of the best picks of the draft. Is he going to struggle defensively? Sure. But the Grizzlies play a lot of drop defense. You know, we can get into more of that later, but you can't teach size. When the kid is 7'4", almost 8 feet with his wingspan, and the drop defense is great, it's going to still allow Jaren Jackson to do what he does really well. He's going to be able to contest shots. And Edey is a lot more mobile than people give him credit for. And he can score the basketball on the block. And we've gotten away from that so much, and it's going to take some pressure off of Ja when they need some buckets on the post. You know, he's going to be able to get people into foul trouble. I love the pick. I think it's one of the best picks of the draft, and I think he's going to be rookie of the year. So that's my prediction.
Hey, Memphis, hey, holla at your boy. We didn't expect it, but hey, we'll give him a hand. So, Marv, does that put Memphis, as we talk about the young teams, and as we talk about the Minnesotas, the OKCs, the Pelicans and all that, where now do you think that puts Memphis in the pecking order, as we just talked about the expanded West in the Western Conference, with their ability now to contend for a championship?
Look, you're going to have a real motivated Ja, and no matter, some of the things I said about him off the court, you can't never question that kid on the court. And I think they top three. I really do. I really think they're going to be top three in the West. I think Memphis is going to be knocking on the door. I think Ja got a lot to prove, and I think that a motivated Ja, and with his ability and adding some pieces that really accentuate what he does well, watch out West, watch out the NBA. I think you might have a new beast in the West.
Yeah, face of the league coming back, people. The face of the league coming back. Don't people slept on it? Ja has been away. But the new awakening, I think it's going to be something to see when they come back. If they can get one more shooter, I'd love to see them with some of these guys that they drafted that can knock down, because you hit it, Marv. Pick and roll after Edey slams 2 or 3 times and Ja gives a highlight, just kicking it to the wide open shooters. That's a dangerous combination. Now, I want to go to our last topic, Marv, something that's near and dear to you, the New York Knicks. Now, I've been hearing all of this stuff, and look, let me say this. First and foremost, great pickup of Mikal Bridges. I like the pickup. I think that it's, great pickup for them. It's going to help them. It's going to improve them. I don't care about the draft picks and stuff. That's nothing. But does the pickup of Mikal Bridges actually, and I've been hearing all of this stuff, put the Knicks right there with Boston in the East? I don't think so. But you're a Knicks fan. Holla at your boy.
Man, as much as I want to go at you right now and tell you how wrong you are, I don't know. I don't know if they're there yet, man. There's still a couple of pieces away. I love the pickup. Don't get me wrong, and I think that they're, depending on what Philly does, I have a strong inclination that Paul George is going to sign with Philly. I don't know. We'll see. That's the swaying for me. If Philly can get Paul George, that's gonna change a lot. But right now New York is still a little bit away. I love Brunson. I think Brunson, his pace, I just love him. I love the Villanova connection they bring it back, but they still missing some shooters. I mean, Hart is still streaky. They still need some shooters. They still need somebody that can, Julius Randle I've never been sold on. So just to answer your question, not to get long with it, I don't think that they're still, with the way Boston is currently constructed, I still don't think that they're a threat. I still think Boston has too much, but they're inching closer, but they need some more pieces. But Mikal is a nice pickup.
Yeah. If Philly gets Paul George, that leaps them up there, and they would be, to me, to your point, the strongest competition
Yeah,
to Boston. But I'll say this: Milwaukee needs to go after DeMar DeRozan,
yeah,
because they're
yeah,
one athletic wing away, and DeRozan is a two-way player, and that'll put them up. You're trying to match the Celtics. The Celtics' depth is just unmatchable right now. They're going to lose some of that depth next year after this upcoming year, but their
yeah,
depth
yeah,
is unmatchable. But you need to start to get extra pieces. If DeRozan can get with Milwaukee, and I don't know their cap situation, Mar, but that would make Milwaukee. People underestimate it, and I wanted to get your comments on this. The star power, not the star power, but the cachet of Damon Lillard. I like Damon Lillard, but people underestimated who he was, and
yeah, yeah,
it was exposed to me. The Bucks
yeah.
have to go out and get a third star now if they can to continue in the West. Your thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, I'm with you. Damon has been great for what he does, and it was great in Portland. But there's different levels to winning basketball games and advancing in the playoffs, and they do. They need a third scorer. They need a third option. But the team that I need you guys to really kind of pay attention to is Orlando. Okay, if Orlando can pull off getting Clay, which is a possibility. And it's a long shot, but I think that they're in the running for being able to pull it off. Like I think that puts them in a position not to, of course, win an NBA championship, but they're going to start being in the conversation because they got some pieces in Orlando. You saw it in the playoffs last year. They got some guys that are not scared. The Wagner, the Banchero kid. They got some pieces, and if they can get
Yeah,
Clay to spread that floor a little bit for those big guys that can really create, Orlando's another team to keep an eye on.
yeah, yeah. But Clay's going to the Mavericks, and so the Mavericks will be back in the finals again next year
If
in the
Luca lose
East.
some weight,
Once the Mavericks get Clay, then we're right back where we started from, headed back to those finals. Couple of last conversations. Ray Blackwell, Zach Edey is going to get 8 alive in the pick and roll. There's going to be some trouble in the pick and roll for Edey. There's no doubt about that. How patient they are with him as he learns to develop. You talked about the drop coverage, going to have to, but can those bigs he's playing against make the shots? That's going to be important. Ray Blackwell thinks the Knicks are going to the finals. I don't think it yet. I think they still need to make some moves. Rosaka me told him to lay off the weed. Ray, if you're smoking the weed, don't get tested. That's all I can say. Hey, it's been a great show. We appreciate all the comments. Coming soon for our people in Memphis, we're going to have a daily 30-minute show on Memphis sports. It's called 901 Sports Talk Memphis. We're going to be debuting that coming soon. We're also going to start to put out more daily content with my guy Marv, so y'all can comment. We want to make that more interactive. We appreciate all of you guys tuning in and listening to us. We appreciate it. We'd like you to subscribe, comment, share. ISF Productions. Marv, any parting shots from anything that we talked about today? I'm going to give you the floor before we close it out, and then I'll have mine.
no, I again just wanted to thank Miss Ramirez. It was a pleasure to speak with her, and being a former athlete and speaking to somebody, I know what it takes to get to the level that she got to, and it's really good to see somebody being at peace with kind of coming towards the end of their athletic career and having a goal and thought about where they're going next and what the next moves are for their life. So it was just a pleasure to speak with her, and I hope that we can keep tabs on her to see where she is. So I wanted to thank her again for coming on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And mine is, look, NIL is here to stay. We've seen a 15-year-old quarterback get an NIL deal. Now we've seen a 9-year-old kid that's playing youth football get an NIL deal. Parents, educate yourself on what this financial windfall means for your family. Make sure you understand and guide your kid appropriately. Education still is the key to that kid being successful. So make sure that he understands it. As fast as you can get it, you can lose it. But NIL is here to stay. I love it for young African-American athletes and all athletes, really, because now family putting in all this work to go to these camps and AAU games and all that, you can reap the rewards of that. So we appreciate all of you. We thank you for tuning in once again. I'm Lee Jones. He's the Hall of Famer Marvin Orange. Thank you for tuning in to After the Buzzer Sports Podcast on ISF Productions. We'll talk to you next week.
Peace.